Venezuela is in crisis. The once prosperous nation is now a land of shortages, hyperinflation, and political turmoil. Millions have fled, seeking a better life elsewhere. The shadow of civil war looms. The international community watches with bated breath, hoping for a peaceful resolution. The weight of the crisis rests heavily on the shoulders of one man, Nicolás Maduro, the president of Venezuela. Can Maduro pull Venezuela back from the brink? Or will the nation descend into chaos? Nicolás Maduro, a former bus driver and union leader, became president in 2013 after the death of his predecessor, Hugo Chávez. Maduro inherited a country already grappling with economic challenges. However, his policies, coupled with corruption and a global oil price slump, have exacerbated the crisis. His supporters view him as a champion of the poor, continuing Chávez's socialist legacy. His detractors see him as an autocrat, responsible for the country's descent into chaos. Love him or hate him, Maduro's decisions will determine the fate of millions. Venezuela was once a beacon of hope in Latin America. Blessed with vast oil reserves, the nation enjoyed a period of economic prosperity in the mid-20th century. However, this prosperity was short-lived. Dependence on oil revenue, coupled with government mismanagement and corruption, left the economy vulnerable to shocks. The 1980s saw an economic downturn, with falling oil prices leading to austerity measures and social unrest. This period sowed the seeds of discontent that would later fuel the rise of Hugo Chávez and his socialist revolution. Hugo Chávez, a charismatic former military officer, rose to prominence in the 1990s, promising to uplift the poor and challenge the established order. His socialist policies, known as Chavismo, resonated with many Venezuelans, particularly the working class. Chávez was elected president in 1998, marking a turning point in Venezuelan history. Chávez's policies, while popular among his base, proved divisive. His nationalization of industries and land redistribution programs alienated the wealthy and middle class. Political polarization deepened, setting the stage for the current crisis. Section 5. Maduro's controversial reign, a nation divided. Following Chávez's death in 2013, Nicolás Maduro assumed the presidency, vowing to continue his mentor's legacy. However, Maduro lacked Chávez's charisma and political acumen. His handling of the economy has been widely criticized, with hyperinflation and shortages becoming commonplace. The opposition accuses Maduro of authoritarianism, pointing to his crackdown on dissent and consolidation of power. The 2018 election, widely seen as flawed, further fueled tensions and led to international condemnation. Venezuela is now a nation bitterly divided, with no easy solutions in sight. Section 6. Whispers of War, a country on edge. The specter of civil war hangs heavy over Venezuela. The country is awash with weapons, and armed groups operate with impunity. The government's security forces, though loyal to Maduro, are overstretched and demoralized. The opposition, though largely peaceful, has called for military intervention. The potential for a full-blown civil war is real. A single spark, a miscalculation, or a provocation could ignite a conflagration that would have devastating consequences for Venezuela and the region. The world holds its breath, hoping for a peaceful resolution, but bracing for the worst. Section 7. The People's Plea, Voices of Desperation and Defiance. The Venezuelan people are caught in the middle of this crisis. They are the ones suffering the consequences of hyperinflation, food shortages, and political violence. Millions have fled their homes, seeking refuge in neighboring countries. Despite the hardships, the Venezuelan people have shown remarkable resilience. They continue to protest, to demand change, and to hope for a better future. Their voices, filled with desperation and defiance, echo across the globe, a stark reminder of the human cost of this crisis. Section 8. A world-divided international response to Venezuela's crisis. The crisis in Venezuela has drawn significant attention from the international community, leading to a variety of responses from different countries and organizations. The international community is divided on how to address the crisis in Venezuela. Some nations advocate for strong measures, while others call for dialogue and non-interference. The United States, along with several other countries, has recognized opposition leader Juan Guaido as the legitimate president. This recognition is part of a broader strategy to support democratic movements and challenge authoritarian regimes. They have imposed sanctions on the Maduro regime, aiming to pressure him to step down. These sanctions target key sectors of the Venezuelan economy, including oil exports, which are crucial for the country's revenue. Other countries, including Russia, China, and Cuba, continue to support Maduro. They provide economic, military, and diplomatic assistance, arguing that Maduro is the legitimate leader and that external pressure is a violation of Venezuela's sovereignty. They argue that the crisis is an internal matter for Venezuela to resolve and that foreign intervention is unacceptable. This perspective emphasizes the importance of national sovereignty and non-interference in the domestic affairs of other countries. This division has hampered efforts to find a peaceful solution, leaving Venezuela in a state of limbo. The ongoing political and economic instability has led to widespread suffering among the Venezuelan people, with shortages of basic necessities and a deteriorating humanitarian situation. Despite the political disagreements, there have been efforts to provide humanitarian aid to the Venezuelan population. International organizations in some countries have sent food, medicine, and other essential supplies to help alleviate the crisis. Diplomatic efforts continue, with various international actors attempting to mediate and facilitate dialogue between the opposing factions in Venezuela. The hope is to reach a peaceful resolution that respects the will of the Venezuelan people and restores stability to the country. Section 9. The uncertain horizon, possible futures for Venezuela. The future of Venezuela hangs in the balance, teetering on the edge of multiple potential outcomes. The nation stands at a crossroads, with each path leading to vastly different realities. Several scenarios are possible, each with its own set of implications. The choices made by the government, the opposition, and the international community will shape the destiny of this beleaguered nation. One possibility is that Maduro could cling to power, using force to crush dissent and plunging the country further into authoritarianism. This would likely lead to increased repression and a further decline in living conditions for the Venezuelan people. Alternatively, the opposition could succeed in ousting Maduro, but they would face the daunting task of rebuilding a shattered nation. This would require significant international support and a unified effort from all sectors of Venezuelan society. Or, in the worst-case scenario, Venezuela could descend into a full-blown civil war, with devastating consequences not only for the country, but for the entire region. Such a conflict would lead to widespread suffering and displacement. The path Venezuela takes will depend on the choices of its leaders, the will of its people, and the actions of the international community. The international community's role will be crucial in providing support and mediating conflicts to ensure a peaceful resolution. Ultimately, the hope for a brighter future lies in the resilience and determination of the Venezuelan people. Their ability to come together and work towards a common goal will be the key to overcoming the challenges ahead. Section 10. A Glimmer of Hope. Avenues for Resolution. Despite the bleak outlook, there are glimmers of hope for Venezuela. Dialogue between the government and the opposition, though currently stalled, offers a potential path to a peaceful resolution. International mediation, perhaps led by a neutral third party, could help bridge the divide and facilitate a negotiated settlement. The international community can play a constructive role by providing humanitarian aid to alleviate the suffering of the Venezuelan people. Additionally, targeted sanctions aimed at individuals accused of corruption and human rights abuses could pressure the regime to change its behavior. Section 11. Venezuela's Crossroads. A nation rich in culture and history, yet currently embroiled in a struggle that has captured the world's attention. A call for peace and justice. The streets of Venezuela echo with the voices of its people, yearning for a brighter future. Venezuela stands at a crossroads. The choices made today will shape the destiny of millions, determining whether the nation will succumb to chaos or rise to a new dawn. The path ahead is fraught with peril, but also with the possibility of renewal. Amidst the storm, there is a glimmer of hope, a chance for the people to reclaim their homeland. The international community must speak with one voice, condemning violence and calling for a peaceful resolution to the crisis. Global leaders have a responsibility to act, to support diplomatic efforts and humanitarian aid. The Venezuelan people deserve a future free from fear, hunger, and oppression. They deserve the opportunity to rebuild their lives, to see their children grow up in a land of peace and prosperity. Will the world stand by and watch as Venezuela crumbles? The images of suffering and despair are a stark reminder of the urgency of the situation. Or will it act decisively to support the Venezuelan people in their quest for peace and justice? The time for action is now, and the world must not falter in its commitment. The answer to this question will determine not only the fate of Venezuela, but also the future of democracy in Latin America. The ripple effects of this crisis will be felt far and wide, influencing the region's stability and the global fight for human rights.